Welcome everybody. This is the Back Channel Podcast for the everyday man and woman. It's your boy B Mims once again, and I got my right-hand man, Malic Vann. And today we have an excellent subject matter for you today. We have a great guy on, Michael Chadwick. Today we're doing cryptocurrencies. And
yes.
Say hello to the people, Mike.
Hello, people. Like I was telling Malik and Brian, today's my second day doing cryptocurrencies, cashed out on some GME, and then, decided to buy some Bitcoin. But no, hopefully during this podcast, we can cover off some of the frequently asked questions, what I get asked all the time. I've been in the space for quite a while, and we'll go from there. And Brian, lead the way.
All right, man. Hey, just to let everyone know, the basis of this, the reason why we are doing this podcast, because we are always hearing about, stocks, the Wall Street stock market and all this good stuff. And no one really ever teaches you that unless you go into some deep diving stuff. But there's always been this thing that you've heard about, like lately, for the last few years, you hear about, everyone knows it as Bitcoin. Everyone knows Bitcoin. Well, the fact of the matter is, the correct terminology is cryptocurrencies, because there's more than just Bitcoin out there. So for me, person who is slightly above a corpse when it comes to knowledge about cryptocurrency, and I know I'm not the only one. While y'all are here laughing, I know I'm not the only one like this. So we're here today, man, to go ahead and break some of that stuff down, and so we can understand it better. And who better than a person who is neck deep in this than Mike, man. So we'll just get down, man. Michael, who are you, and what's your 9 to 5?
All right. So hello, folks. I'm Michael Chadwick, and my 9 to 5 is actually doing digital marketing. I work at Red Hat, so I work at a tech company. But my 5 to 9, as I like to call it, is essentially Bitcoin and cryptocurrency mining. Just to give everybody a quick synopsis of what I've been up to and what I do. About in 2016, I started investing into cryptocurrency. It wasn't as big back then as it was now, but I mean, like, you heard about it. It was, my friends had been investing in it, and I had some money in my 401k, decided to draw it out and pop it into the market. And there's stuff that you could buy. I mean, I'm sure you all seen on the news, like dark web and stuff like that, but it wasn't for anything like that. I held on to the money, and then after a while, it just kept on growing and growing and growing quicker than my portfolio was doing at the time, in the traditional markets. And around that time, it was we're hitting 2017, so we're entering a massive bull market. And my buddy and I, he had been investing around the same time as I had. We decided to liquidate and open up a mining company. And for those of you that don't know, mining is essentially the way to earn cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, whatever cryptocurrency of your choice. But yeah, that's how it all started. And we've been mining ever since. So we've been mining since 2017, and it's 2021, and we're still currently mining to this day. Running Ethereum validators, helping out the networks. It's a very interesting thing. And the crazy thing is, we had no idea what we were getting ourselves into. One day we were just like, why are we paying for this? Why are we using credit cards to buy this when we could just literally do it on our own? And I mean, at that time, the markets were right, and we cashed out. And I had no idea. I was working with Malik at the time at a marketing agency, and I had no clue what I was getting into, but then there's a will, there's a way. And I mean, honestly, setting up like miners isn't as hard or as challenging as it sounds. That's a subject for another day. Long and short of it is, I've been in the cryptocurrency space for a fairly decent amount of time, and I feel fairly confident in it because I'm, like you said, neck deep in it all the time. Except for when I'm working at Red Hat.
So let me expound on that a little bit. So my travels moved me to Tampa. I got another job opportunity back here in North Carolina. I worked there at this company, the agency that Michael spoke about, for about a year remotely, and decided to move back for office synergy, in-person meetings, and just to increase efficiency, basically. I got back in about 2017, September. Me and Michael bonded. He was my social media guy. I was the director of digital marketing, and he's our social media guy. He, we bonded. We talked about all kinds of things, and ultimately led us to cryptocurrency. Now, in that time, Michael gave quite a few predictions throughout that first maybe 6 months I moved back. And sure enough, each prediction slowly came true. Even back in 2017, when he predicted Bitcoin would hit 20K that Christmas, and it did. So I used Michael as my de facto crypto glossary / end all be all for answers, and that's why I thought he'd be the ideal person to have up here, because and let's be clear, this is not financial advice or anything of that nature, but I'm letting you know, I've held tight with ultimately not really digging in to crypto outside of research this long, and this is going to, this today, the next month and a half will be my baby steps into the crypto world outside of research. So I'm well read on this stuff. I've asked Michael numerous questions to confirm everything, and again, I ask for his insight and ideas on things, and he gives them to me, and they're usually right. So probably 99.8% of the time about right. So yeah, so that's why we've chosen Michael for this guest, and he's always had the answers for me. So there's not a question I've asked that he's had to say, can I get back to you on that, or let me look it up? It's always been right on the tip of his tongue. So he's a great source and resource for this. So yeah, so ultimately we can kind of move on. So I think he's covered how long he's been in crypto, his involvement with crypto. Michael, dig into it a little bit more on the mining aspect of kind of the process of that, so people can understand. I imagine if I learned I could earn money and earn crypto through mining without having to pay in, I'd have questions there.
Sure enough. So basically, I'll just start us from the top down. Basically, like, what is blockchain, how it works, how the technology is all interfaced, and like mining. I'm just gonna steal a lot of stuff at you guys. Slow me down. And before we dive into this, I just want to say I've been in the space for a long time, and that doesn't mean that I'm going to say something that's right. So I know somebody's going to hold me to it. If I say something wrong, I'm not perfect, but I try to be.
Let me interject really quick, Mike, and Melanie made a really good point. This is not financial advice. So this is just really, this is 100%, this is a knowledge-based and informative podcast. This is just breaking down, hey, this is what this stuff means. This is not what you should do. What you should do should be based solely off the research you've done, and what that entail is up to you. It's not us. So, Michael, I don't want you to be worried about that. We have that's the disclaimer right there. Research, and then once you research, do some more research. So, without further ado, go ahead, Mike.
Sure thing. So basically, to start, everybody always asks me, what is a cryptocurrency? So I have a pretty loose definition that I give people. So I basically say cryptocurrency is a digital currency that can be used to buy anything, whether that's a service or a product, more coins, exchanging for digital products, that uses an online ledger with some level of cryptography. And some examples of cryptography, just to get into the mining a little bit, different coins use different algorithms, and some coins have more efficient means of being mined on those algorithms. For example, Bitcoin is on SHA-256, which is a very common script algorithm, and you can use GPUs, and that was what was commonly used for the longest time. And then with Ethereum, that was ECDSA, which is Ethereum Elliptical Curve Digital Signature Algorithm, which is now moved from a mining-based way to validating, which is a POS type of algorithm. So I mean, there's tons of different algorithms. Like for example, with Zcash. Zcash is a privacy coin. It uses a completely different algorithm, to keep the transactions anonymous and kind of hard to see. And that is called Equihash for that algorithm. But so definition, some examples of the different algorithms used on the cryptocurrencies. And then, so kind of like getting into the networking, how like those algorithms come into play and all that. So the way that the network works is, let's say you want to send Malic, $1,000. You lose the Super Bowl tonight, and you have to pay Malic. So the way that works is you, on the network, you send a broadcast, and then, i.e., that's you sending Malic money. The network is then thus made up of nodes, validators, miners, and together they all validate this transaction, and then the miners for confirming that yes, you are in fact sending Malic $1,000. They receive a very small portion of that, whether it's made up in network fees, mining fees, a block reward, or gas. That goes to them, and that basically keeps them happy, keeps the network running. And then that transaction is added to a block, and it's viewable on the public ledger. It's simple as that. It's just basically like an open source transaction. Everything's viewable to everybody, unless you're using one of those privacy coins, which they've had a lot of heat in the past couple of months with like the SEC and such.
So, okay. Again, this is the low novice question right here. So, by the example that you just used, like you say, I'm going to send Malic $1,000. So, what for people like me, where it's going to be hard to wrap your mind around it. Like if I send Malic $1,000 in like cash, no matter what time of year, 10 years from now or tomorrow, $1,000 is going to be $1,000. So how does Bitcoin work as it like fluctuates? So like how do you know what's $1,000? I know you said that those validators say, okay, hey, this is $1,000, but like because just following Bitcoin and Ethereum and all that, it keeps them down.
So exactly. So when you're sending money across the network, it's pegged to a fluctuating price. Basically, what the network dictates is the price, or what the buyers and sellers on the exchanges dictate is the price. So when you're sending $1,000, it's technically not $1,000, just for sake of being. Ethereum's pegged at like 1,700 today. So let's say you send Malic 1 Ethereum. So that today, current day rate would be just 1 ETH going to Malic. That'd be $1,700 for his Super Bowl bet that you lost. Tomorrow, that could be worth, 2,000, 3,000. Like as the price goes up, it's sort of that gamble. And it's gotten to the point with me where I don't even bother looking in terms of USD. I just look at, how many coins do I have? I want to rack and stack. That's the name of the game. I want to have as many validators running as possible. I want to have just as much Bitcoin as possible. It's basically in my view for this as a why did you get into it type thing. It's basically a hedge against the USD, in my opinion, a huge hedge for me.
Yeah, so there's a recent article that just came out. This blogger who started a blog back in 2017 that one guy donated to her. Maybe it was earlier than that. No, it's definitely earlier than that. I think it might have been. It's definitely longer than what, 4 years ago. So I think 6 or 10 years ago. They just donated a Bitcoin, which at the time was not necessarily, no, I think it was 2 Bitcoin. It wasn't worth much. And, but that's what they did because she offered a donation option on her blog. They donated to her in the form of cryptocurrency. It was a Bitcoin. It was two at the time, two Bitcoin at the time, which back then I don't think amounted to really anything monetarily. And she went and looked at it. I read this article maybe a week, 2 weeks ago, and went and looked at it. And basically, she had basically amounted to $66,000. So ultimately, that's kind of an example of what Michael was talking about. Hey, he just gave her 2 Bitcoin that were probably worth, a few $100s back, when this happened. And, when she went back to look at it, it was, maybe it was $16,000 or something. So maybe it wasn't quite 2 Bitcoin, but yeah. So, so that's a recent article. I wish I had a link to that, but maybe we'll throw that up.
There's a more common one that's actually, I'm sure a lot of people who are listening may know about it. There was this gentleman who purchased 2 pizzas for 10,000 Bitcoin at the time, which was like the equivalent of like $20. If you live and you learn, you sometimes buy a pizza for like millions of dollars. But I mean, it's just the opportunity cost, at the time, like
sure.
It's just part of the name of the game. And I mean, as these currencies go up, I mean, in the game usage, you're not going to be sending like a whole Bitcoin. You're going to be send fractional percentages of them. That's also like a very key thing. I have a lot of people that always ask me, oh, I can't afford, $40,000 on Bitcoin. That's okay. You can literally buy $10, $5, whatever you feel comfortable with buying and adding to your portfolio, you can buy. These coins are completely divisible and fractional, so you don't have to buy base ones or anything like that.
So when you're talking about the exchange rate, Michael, so you can send just as well as use as purchase fractions or buy or sell fractions, but you can send fractions as well.
Right. Yep, that is correct.
Yeah, that is very important, because I was just thinking, like, hold up, like I gotta send one whole Bitcoin, like 10,000 Bitcoin. Like, bought a pizza now somebody like stumbled on, like they got like $33 million. Like, okay, that's huge. That is huge. Moving on, your top 3 reasons why crypto is so attractive to you.
So yeah, basically I like to always just start off with this analogy. Think of it as the next level, the next evolution of money. When we started, we had our ancestors were trading. It was a trade-based society, bartering goods, coins, silver beads, what have you. Eventually, then they developed hardened money such as coins, and then they had dollars, and the next thing you know, we have ACH, and we have credit, Visa, debit, all that nonsense. This basically is, in my opinion, what logically comes next. Think of it as like VHS to Blu-ray. Like we're getting ready. The technology is rapidly approaching in terms of being better than your current money systems that you have in place, whether you're talking Visa, MasterCard, all those systems. It's better. And the other thing that I also like to bring up is just like this, you're your own bank, essentially. So I always find this interesting. Like I bring up, having gone to the bank quite a bit and starting this business and such, I bring up like these key points. We tried to go in there one time, and you go to any bank for that matter, and you try and get out a large chunk of money over, call it $10,000. Those banks have liquidity issues. There are laws that allegedly prevent that from happening, but anytime I tried to go to the bank and get, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 out, they would be like, well, you're going to have to go to this bank and go to this bank, And these are like fairly large banks, not going to mention who. But that was just ridiculous to me. And then the fact of the matter is, these banks are only open from 9 to 5. And what am I doing between 9 to 5? I'm working. I don't have time to go putt around town and go deposit money into an account, or and I mean, just get to further on being like your own bank. You can't get shut down. You're unless you lose your keys. That's a whole other topic. But the bank can freeze your account. They can. There's numerous times when I've tried to go buy stuff online, and it's like, please call your bank to confirm this order. It's like, legal? And I'm like, yes, this is like, who else is going to enter in my credit card information, know my password to this account, and answer all the security questions? But with blockchain, like you're literally in control. Like everything is basically if everything's stored on a cold storage wallet. So basically, what that is offline storage of money. And I'll pop this up, see if you can. So you enter in your password, and then boom, you get access to your funds. This is where I recommend anybody who has over $500, $1,000 in crypto, get one of these. It allows you to be 100% in control of your money, because you got to think, I know a lot of people use Coinbase, Gemini, Kraken to buy coins, and that's great for them. But what if these websites get a denial of service attack? They get taken offline. Companies can restrict you from accessing your account. Just because you know the password and you can 2FA in doesn't mean like you have access to your funds. This is the only way to have direct access to your funds. The great thing about this is I could blow this up, I could catch it on fire, as long as I had the seeds written down, keep those somewhere safe, I can get into it. So like, there's been times when I've accidentally left this in my car, on the dashboard. Didn't even have to worry about it. I knew it was on the dashboard, but you're not going to guess my password. You get 3 guesses, then it wipes it. And the only way to restore it is with this massive 24-word numeric password that you have to type in. Everyone's set up with 24 words.
Yeah, I remember reading an article just probably less than a month ago about that guy in the UK. He had like 22 million. And
you're right.
Yeah, and I don't know, what was it, Malic? I mean, where was it stored? Like, because I'm assuming it wasn't on something like that, or
yes,
or whatever it was. He forgot his password or whatnot.
Yes.
It was on a hard drive that was encrypted, and he only had 10 guesses to get to it. And like, he's basically at peace with the fact that he's never going to remember it. And that's why I tell anybody getting into these things, it's not like writing down a password to your Gmail. Like, you lose this password unless you have it written down or put somewhere safe, like a safe deposit box, gun safe, whatever. Like, you're SOL. Like, everything, all my company's money, everything is backed up. And like, if I can do it, you can do it. Trust me. All it takes is plugging in this thing into a machine, generating your PIN. Obviously, do more than 5 to 10 digits. The more numbers, the more secure. And then it makes you write down all 24 words that are associated with this for the seed, and then you're good to go. You have I think there's probably close to 500 plus wallets on Ledger, from Ethereum, Litecoin, Bitcoin, Ethereum Classic, Nano, Neo, like the list goes on. But all the heavy hitters, everything that anybody wants access to, basically the Ledger does everything you could want. The Ledger Nano X is what I recommend. I'm not being paid by them either, sorry.
Yeah, so to be clear, when he mentioned Coinbase and all those are web-based platforms where you can store your crypto, like you keep your wallet. And the difference there is it's way less secure, right? It's always online. There's always potential for somebody to try to hack into that, and you don't have as much control over that. So
right, and the only time when your funds are like active, when you're sending funds on this, is you can view your funds. You can view them on the computer via a web platform, or you can view it via an app that you can download. And then once you plug this in, you can send, you can receive. You don't need to be connected to receive. That's also a key thing. But then before you send, it asks you to confirm, is this the proper address? This is how much the transaction is going to cost. This is, the final outcome of it. Do you approve? And ultimately, it's up to you to ensure, like, yes, I'm sending it to Malic. Yes, this is his address. This is like the proper amount and everything. So it really puts the power, like I said, in the user's hands. And if you have over a couple $100, it's highly recommended to get a wallet, a cold storage wallet.
Okay.
So that is definitely a con too. So we're talking pros and cons. Being just that story with that $22 million You know, I don't know if that's something I'd ever be at peace with. You know,
that's like a mug right there. Like what? The dude was just cool with it though. He was just like, but he tried to get it like to dig up a landfill or something like that.
He offered a percentage of when he finds it, he'd give them like a percentage of it. But you know, good luck to him. That's why I say you never know how much your stuff could be worth. You know, what's worth. When I got into it, I'll just give like a little quick parable. I bought it at my buy price of Ethereum was like $5. It's now $1,700. You know, like. I can tell you, I like lost a few on wallets. You know, I lost those passwords, learned the hard way. But you know, you live and you learn, and you never know. Like tomorrow, not saying Bitcoin could go to $1 million, but like a couple years down the road, like what if your 40,000 turns into $1 million plus and you forget that password? So you never know where these things could go, and it's just write down the damn password.
Yeah. So Brian, this is more for you because I mentioned to you, like I told you I tend to listen to Michael with what he says with things, because the two times he's basically told me with staunch enthusiasm that Bitcoin is going to hit 20,000 was like 2017 and then this year. So and they both, I mean, it exceeded this year. He tends to be very conservative too. So that's also why I listen to him, because if you go on the web, people will be clamoring for, you know, 10-year Bitcoin be $1 million. And you know, Michael tends to lean toward, you know, 250 maybe, you know. So
I appreciate it, because when I got into all this, I initially like wrote down on a piece of paper and said to my friends, like, if it goes to $200, $100 by the end of Christmas, like from, you know, I bought it in January and I was like, in 12 months, if it goes up, you know, from $5 to $100, like that's insane. Like you can't pick stocks like that. And
right.
I was going to be happy. And then, you know, come the end of that year, it was at $1,200 plus. So it's just, you know, I was at the right place at the right time. What can I say?
Yeah. No, so let's dig into a little bit on sort of the history of crypto, sort of where it came from. Some people kind of know the start because they've seen the movie, right? The social network,
right? Yeah,
they know about the Winklevoss and all that. But give a brief setup on that.
Sure thing. I'll give like the 100 level view. We're going to be flying over this really quickly. So back in 2019, Bitcoin was launched. And the beauty of it is nobody really knows who the true founder is. The person who published the white paper, his name was Satoshi Nakamoto. But nobody knows who that is. It was believed to be an engineer that lived close by, based off of like IP tracing and stuff like that on this one website. They're able to figure out, you know, close proximity of where these messages were being posted, where the white paper was coming from. And then one person, there was actually a person named Satoshi Nakamoto, but he just denies, he was a computer engineer, I believe, and he just denies being it. So it's believed that it's a pseudonym that somebody's using. And one school of thought that's pretty prevalent is it's Hal Finney. And Hal Finney was a computer programmer. He did a lot of work in cryptography and basically wrote a paper on using digital money way before Bitcoin became a twinkle in anybody's eyes. And then eventually he developed a degenerative nerve disease, and slowly but surely he eventually passed away. And I'm unsure if that was before or after Bitcoin launch, but either way, a lot of people believe that he could potentially be Satoshi Nakamoto, i.e. the founder of Bitcoin. But basically from Bitcoin, we then saw a spawn of all these crypto currencies as kind of like a crypto movement. Initially, I mean, you have Bitcoin that was like the start of it all, but now, I mean, there's over 8,400 different coins that you could purchase, and they all serve different purposes. And kind of just covering off the history, you know, things were kind of stagnant. Not a whole lot was going on from 2019 until 2016. then right at the fall of 2017, things start to get a little wild. That's when basically Bitcoin went from $1,000 all the way up to $20,000. And I had been paying maybe too much attention to it prior to that. And this is like right when I'm explaining to Malic, like, you're gonna think I'm crazy, man, but listen, like, this is the money. And sure enough, it ended up going to over 20 grand. And that's right about the time when me and my business partner, we both cashed out and we started our mining, which is where things get a little interesting, because things they don't always go as they plan in life. So right after we crack 20 grand, we generally, hope for the best. We want to see 50, we want to see 60, we want to see 100 grand. But no, Bitcoin returned to $3,000, and that was during 2018 is right when that happened. And then slowly but surely, from 2018, it was a bear market, and just the prices kept on dropping and dropping and dropping and dropping. And then for those of you playing along at home, Ethereum, my favorite, went from 1,400 all the way down to a ripe $90. So right around then, my buddy and I were losing out on massive amounts of USD, but we're still racking up all these coins, and we're doubling down as we see like Ethereum, something that was $1,400 of 6 months ago at $90 in February of 2019, I believe. We start buying more of it, and this is where we start doubling down. And the rest is it's kind of history. Like we've seen more and more developers hop on board. We've seen millionaires, billionaires. Michael Saylor's come out. He's trying to get more and more enterprise companies, like Elon Musk is trying to get on. He's trying to get Elon Musk on board. So Mark Cuban's doing NFTs. It's just like that. And this is all just within the past couple of months, but it's really just like this is like slowly but surely getting to be like mainstream adoption. And you know what? For the people that are worried at home, like, I'm gonna lose a lot of money if I invest at what they perceive as the top at, call it 1,700 for Ethereum, call it 40 grand for Bitcoin. If it drops, then don't sell, keep buying, and just average out your cost. And then again, this is not financial advice, but treat it like a 401k. You don't look at your 401k every day. You just keep on buying. I spent $100 this month on buying cryptocurrencies. But that's kind of like the long and short. Now we're into the where's it gonna go, and quite frankly, it's anybody's ball game. And I like to be, like Malic said, very, very conservative. And for the past, call it 6 months, since the midway of COVID, I've been wanting a bear market to ultimately take into effect. I want these prices to drop so I can get some more cheap coins and ride the fun roller coaster all the way up. But I honestly don't think we're coming down anytime soon. And I know saying that I'm going to eat those words, but I think realistically in 2021, I think we could potentially see 2,500, maybe $3,000 on Ethereum. And then Bitcoin, I also think that people think it's crazy, but I think 75K to 100K, it could easily happen. But it's anybody's ballgame. Lots of companies are getting into it. More and more technology is being developed on blockchain technology. More cryptocurrencies are the new trendy topic. And with this much of institutional investors getting in, I just don't foresee a repeat of the 2018, 2019 bear market going on.
That's important to take note of too. Is there have been even before this year, there have been a lot of institutions and big name companies prepping for digital currency, right, behind the scenes. So those are kind of the research articles you need to follow, because just because somebody says they're not, you got to treat it like a stock market, right? Just because somebody says they're not, they don't think crypto is here to stay, or it's not going to grow, or won't be widely adopted, doesn't mean they're not prepping for it. and that prep is for times like now, right? So some of these companies are now coming out, making it public that they are involved in crypto and digital currencies, and that's only going to drive the price up. So all those are all factors you have to watch when it's basically the stock market, digital stock market.
That's a great segue to the next thing, and it's actually Michael, the way you just brought that in, I was, again, novice. I was just asking this question because you're using terms like the bear and bull markets and stuff like that, which obviously is familiar. Anybody who's done any type of trading, like your conventional stocks, I mean, understand or at least have heard those terms. Whether or not you know what they mean, that's another story. But since it sounds so much like all these people were getting into, like, I mean, what regulations are there going to be on that? Are like, how is this? Because to me, how is this not going to turn into just the regular stock market in a sense where, you know, when we see like another GameStop, you know what I'm saying? Like all that.
Oh no! So while we're at it, I just want to start this off by saying there's going to be a lot of pump and dumps. There's going to be a lot of get rich very fast type schemes. Looking at people who may be buying Doge who are watching this, do your own research and just know I do not recommend buying anything that's like small market cap, low volume type coins. I'd recommend sticking to like the main meat and potatoes. But in terms of like regulation, it's a very interesting subject matter because, I mean, from my standpoint, I prefer everything to be unregulated. SEC can go away, but you know, it looks like they're here to stay at least for a little bit. Maybe we'll see like a digital regulatory committee slowly but surely come to fruition. That would be very nice. But right now we're seeing lawsuits be brought about and the SEC is being involved against some digital company named Ripple. You know, few people may have heard of them. They're only the number 4 coin on the market. But basically, all the news that's come out has said the SEC is so old and outdated that they don't know what they're doing in terms of regulating. And it's basically, if you were trying to explain how to use TikTok to your grandfather, like it would just be so over his head, he wouldn't have a clue. So I think to sum it up, we're going to need something that's some sort of like extra branch of one of the regulatory committees, you know, making sure there's, you know, scams, Ponzi schemes, things like that are being taken care of. They're not as prevalent. But I think during the 2017, 2019 era of blockchain, if you will, a lot of people learned a lot of valuable lessons, myself included. And I mean, I'd like to believe that these mistakes are not going to be made. Like, for example, people bought, I know a lot of people, I personally did not buy into BitConnect, but BitConnect, basically it was a Ponzi scheme. You know, you recruit people to buy the coin and they buy it, and slowly but surely, like, you earn referral shares. And it was a hot mess, and it came out as like this $1 billion plus Ponzi scheme, and a lot of people lost a lot of money. So, I mean, you just got to be smart. And then about it becoming the stock market. No, the stock market, it will never be the stock market per se, because we're open 24 hours. We're like the 7-Eleven over here. We don't shut down. You know, and as much as like people like to say, well, these regulatory committees and these governments could definitely control blockchain. I know that this is a completely different subject. They can't. It would cost trillions of dollars to attack the networks and take these things over. So basically, in my theory is like they have to adapt to them and work with them. Like I said, it's the next level of money evolution, I'd like to believe. And stocks will be traded on cryptocurrency, on like Ethereum, for example. Like last week, I bought options. You know, you can go on to platforms, take cryptocurrency, convert it to United States dollars, or you can keep it in cryptocurrencies. Bought some options, and the interesting thing is it's not going to be resolved by, you know, say a Robinhood or somebody who could interfere with it. It's resolved via smart contract. It's resolved by ones and zeros. It has no bias. It's a beautiful thing. So, you know, even if they're, you know, I saw people's shares of GameStop getting sold when it was like selling at like on the market. It was selling at 300 plus. I saw people who got liquidated by GameStop, you know, just because they didn't want to lose face to their people, you know, lizard people that control Robinhood. Those shares sold at like 120 when the actual market rate was like $350, $400, you know. So like it's just like it's the next level. Eventually, we won't need these companies. It'll just be peer-to-peer decentralized, and like anything that really needs like a human interface will be based off of like an AI algorithm, or you know, it'll be developed to the point where it won't need someone. But I've even heard of like I've heard rumors of stocks like you'll be like now you can buy options now, but like I'm talking like I could buy Amazon, Tesla, you know, GME, whatever type of stocks, and have them be in my Ethereum wallet, you know, along with all my digital assets, all my cryptocurrencies, and like it's tied to real world money. Like it's same value as like, you know, a regular stock that you have held on, call it, what is it, like Robinhood or one of the other trading apps. But I mean, it's on the blockchain. So I think slowly but surely we'll see stocks, traditional assets, trading, like stuff like that come over to cryptocurrency as well.
Yeah. So I'm glad you circled back to that, because when you initially went through and you mentioned how you'd rather it not be regulated, and that would be that hearing that alone might scare a lot of people off. They think Wild Wild West, but to put it in a real world situation, think about the example that he just spoke about, which was the GameStop stock. Robinhood stepped in and literally stopped the hemorrhaging from these big hedge funds because they wanted them to be able to cover it, right? So they didn't allow other people to buy in. They didn't allow the stock to rise anymore. They only allowed for selling. So that is something you wouldn't run into on cryptocurrency or the blockchain, right? So there's no regulation there. So mind you, you need to, you know, pay attention to your own money, but nobody else is going to stop you from making money or come in to save you from hemorrhaging money.
Right. And like I've said a few times already, like once you send that money, you have to be absolutely sure, like, is this Malic? Am I sending like, you know, my Super Bowl bet to Malic? You know, it's on you. Like once your transaction is broadcast, it goes across the network. There's no getting your money back if you're scammed out, which may sound scary to a lot of people, but you also got to take into account that scamming and things like that are far, and they're less prevalent on the blockchain and on like cryptocurrencies than you'd imagine. A lot of people use this for transactional, like legal, legitimate purposes, as opposed to like fraudulent. But as always, be safe and like, you know, be cautious. You wouldn't send a check for $1 million to somebody that you don't know, you know, for a get rich scheme or something like that. So it's like, just if it sounds off to you,
the right name on the check too. so
exactly.
So yeah. So this question, the next part of where we should go with this is kind of two-part, right? Because we talk about why cryptocurrency, it's a little bit twofold, right? Because as Brian mentioned earlier, we talked about how cryptocurrency is kind of a bet at the moment, right? So if you decide you're going to send somebody $1,000 in cryptocurrency, ultimately, you know, we're looking at the way the market is right now, that's going to eventually turn out to be way more money. So in addressing why cryptocurrency, I want you to address the two parts, Michael, the why in general, and then maybe the why not in terms of buying or purchasing. Because sometimes that doesn't exist, right? Some places you might have to, like for mining, I think, is that still the case, Michael? Mining, you have to, when you buy, say, a mining server, it's all crypto. It has to be crypto. That's the only.
Yeah, no, that's correct. I mean, a majority of like the big names, like Bitmain, is like generally who I'd use as an example. They only accept cryptocurrencies, but kind of like the meat and potatoes of like the advantages of cryptocurrency versus like USD traditional assets. I know I've already covered out being your bank, so I'm not even going to bother touching on that. But the number one thing, in my opinion, is just the speed. For example, I just bought a house, and with buying a house, you have to wire transfer money. When we wire transferred money, we did it at like 8 o'clock in the morning, right when the bank opened. Our meeting with our lawyers to finalize all the house stuff was at, I think, 11. And we got to the office 11, start signing papers. It gets to be 12 o'clock, and they're like, the wire still hasn't come across. I'm like, well, shit, and then to bring that back to cryptocurrencies, it's not just that one wire, transactions across state lines, across national lines. So people who are sending money, remittances to relatives that may be in a third world nation, second world nation, developing nation, or overseas, that alone can take weeks. It can take, the longest I think a wire transfer can take is about 4 to 6 weeks in some cases. So definitely faster than traditional money sending. And additionally to that, so it's a lot faster. When I send money, I can build into the transaction how much of a reward or how much gas I want to spend, which is basically how much money you're willing to reward or how much you're giving to the network to make that transaction. And let's say, for example, somebody sent, I'd added an article in here. I think it's $212 million they sent. They sent it for $3. A wire transfer alone costs $30 at a traditional bank. So that's crazy that you can move that much money that quickly. And additionally, the other thing is it's not just money. I'd consider it an ecosystem. It's an interesting thing, and to kind of describe it is, you have Ethereum, and this is strictly for Ethereum right now. Bitcoin is peer-to-peer transactional, but Ethereum has multiple layers to it. It's not just sending money back and forth. For instance, there's NFTs, non-fungible tokens. These are things such as DLCs. Think about this as the way that I try and describe this is items that you could have in a video game or something like that tied to your user account, but instead it's tied to your Bitcoin wallet or something like that. Think about it things that could eventually happen with this is Fortnite. They could tie video game items like that. You go to your friend's house, you plug in your wallet, and boom, all your Fortnite stuff loads up, and the system recognizes what you own. People are buying digital land. Deeds are being established on these ecosystems. You have DeFi, which is short for decentralized finance, and that's a whole nother monster in and of itself. But basically, the long and short of DeFi is it's ways that you can make money with interest earning, lending out money. Like I said, loans. That's basically anything that you can do with Ethereum. I would consider, well, not everything, but the meat and potatoes of what a lot of people use it for is this the DeFi ecosystem. And a lot of currencies don't have these ecosystems. NEO is another one that has an ecosystem built behind it. But a lot of coins only have 1 or 2 functions. Some of them can strictly be used for digital storage or decentralized processing power. It's which is why I think do your research, and if you think the technology is going to be around in the future, then invest in it. But that's why with Ethereum, you have a lot being built on it. You have developers building on it. With Neo, it's built in a Microsoft.NET framework. So you have thousands of developers that already know how to code in that language. It's not a brand new system. And I mean,
did you say Ethereum was built on .NET?
No, I said Neo was built on .NET. But I mean, it's not to say that, a lot of these programs are built on very well known. R's, a pretty common one, and there's a few that are built in Rust. It's all dependent on the initial coin, but For developers to hop in, you know, anybody could develop their own coin. You know, like there's this new thing, and when I say ecosystems, it's a pretty broad, overarching term. Just know that. The NFTs, like to get back on that, those, it's a very interesting thing. It's Mark Cuban is actually selling pictures. These are pictures that he owns. He created them, and now he's selling them for Ethereum, and they have distribution rights. And now it's not just Mark Cuban who can like do this. Anybody in the world can create their own pictures. They can go create their own GIFs. They can go sell these on these marketplaces. You may say, well, who's going to buy my GIF? Who's going to, you know, who's going to buy it? And why should they? Some of these GIFs are done by like famous artists. Like they had Rick and Morty's creator. He created a few NFTs. Those sold for quite a bit. And I mean, we could see digital ownership rights built into these. Should say we already have seen digital ownership rights built into these. For example, let's say I bought an NFT and wanted to add on like a 20% royalty to it for every sale that happens. That's built into the smart contract. Malic can't change it. You can't change it. Nobody can change it, you know? So like, it's kind of an accepted thing that if you purchase this item, you have to follow like the outline smart contract rules. You can't change it. You could, I mean, in theory, you could add on like stipulations and stuff like that, but just for sake of simplifying things, let's say like, every sale reverts 20% of that sale back to the original owner. Like you think about that being done with music, you know, instead of having to go, a lot of things that we're seeing today in modern media, Spotify, for example, we hear about artists all the time that aren't getting paid their royalties, you know, even though they're getting their streams or their companies aren't paying them. So these royalties, it's not just like Mark Cuban and company that it can revert to. It's like whoever publishes stuff on these blockchains and whoever puts their stuff out there, you can easily code these things, and there's on-ramps and off-ramps for doing that. There's, you know, very user-friendly setups for this, and you potentially, instead of being your own bank, you know, you're your own music studio, or you're your own media distribution center. Like the meat and potatoes are reverting back to you, and not some massive holding company. But yeah.
And yeah, that's another benefit of blockchain / decentralized network. It gives you way more power than you have now.
So, real quick, did you say there's digital deeds? Like you said, like land was being.
Yes. I will find whoever's watching this right now. I will send Brian the link, and he will somehow link this in the description, but or into the show notes or what have you. But there's been resolutions for consumer like real estate, and then like commercial properties as well. Even some exchanges, I'm not going to say which ones because I want people to go out and find their own. They offer retail marketplaces. So like, for example, like, well, I'm trading coins, you know, swapping Bitcoin, buying whatever. I could go buy a Ferrari, or I could go buy, you know, call it like a house. Like people can put up whatever for sale, but people are accepting digital assets in return for these items. And there's been, and like when I say like supercars, there's been a good bit of digital assets tied to like supercars that have been sold as NFTs. I'll send that information across, but it's like you own that Ferrari on the blockchain, or you own that, you know, Pagani, or you own that car, and it's tied to you into the blockchain, and that's how ownership establishes to your wallet. So same thing, same principle would be applied for real estate or any sort of like legal document or anything like that.
Yeah. So that could, I mean, when you talk about cars, I mean, think about using your wallet to basically start up your car. Or
exactly. No, like so it's actually interesting that you mentioned this, because this is like the next point of like why cryptocurrency. So basically, it's like a broad overarching term, Web 3.0. One thing that I'm just awful at is remembering passwords. I forget to get dressed some days, you know, like I'm just a hot mess. But you know, with the crazy thing is, like when I go on, I use a Brave browser, and when I connect this wallet to my computer, it recognizes me and it knows like I can go to any website, that this wallet has been linked to. For example, like ENS domains, OpenSea.com. There's multiple websites that you can get. There's decentralized exchanges, Uniswap. All these websites know it's me because they can verify, okay, this is the holder of these funds. This is his wallet. This is like, we've seen all his transactions on the blockchain. We know it's him. So I don't need a username. Like when I go in and I buy like any digital assets or anything like that, it's just, you got that wallet, plug it in, and it's good to go. So I'm thinking like down the road, we're going to eventually see stuff like this tied to, it's inevitable, social media, emails, being able, using this as basically like 2FA will be extinct. This is your 2FA because I mean, it's essentially two forms of authenticating because you have to input the password and you also have to have possession of the item and plug it in. So it's not something that can be like copied or duplicated. It's unless you have those aforementioned seeds, but that's a whole other topic.
Are you familiar with the YubiKey?
Yes, I am.
So is similar what we're talking about? It says basically, I know the YubiKey is usually used for a second layer of security.
Right. So
they eliminate that with what you're talking about now with the wallet.
Yeah. So with YubiKey, like it knows, like okay, when you plug it in, it reads that key and it knows like this is. Yep. It allows you into your computer. It allows you into your Gmail. This isn't like on the whole, like on the broad spectrum of like everything. I'm talking like you can go into the exchanges, you can go into these places to sell digital artwork, you can go onto your storage websites. I mean, it's interesting. Social media networks, like I mean, and these aren't just like things that are potentially going to happen. These are things that are already happening. Like I mean, like I said, the Brave browser, it's built on it's essentially like ready for crypto, ready for wallet integration, ready for you to play on Web 3.0. And then, I mean, from there, it's for storage. I mean, instead of like going into like Google or something like that, you can use storage, Filecoin, and it's all accessible because you're tied into your wallet. You don't need to enter an email. You don't need to enter in anything. It's just there. And then, I mean, as far as like social media networks, like you have Steemit, Zonto, there's a few other ones out there. I mean, like they're not well known, but I mean, as these things grow in popularity, like it'll make sense to people to, like I'll just add my Ethereum address to my, social media account, and that's how I log in. And I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if some company creates something that allows a Facebook login or something like that. But yeah, in long and short, it eliminates two-factor authentication, in my opinion. And I'm sure there's somebody out there that's a professional that's going to disagree with me.
Let's rein this back in. Because I'm over here like, what are these cats talking about?
Well, see, okay, so what I wanted to do, I didn't know if you knew about YubiKeys, right? So I was trying to tie YubiKey comparison to what he was saying with the digital wallet. But now that I think about it, if you know about YubiKey, you're probably a little bit versed on cryptocurrencies. So yeah. So that.
And what's the point of this podcast again? Just help me out, real quick. Anybody remember?
So that was a swing and a miss.
Show of hands. Okay. Hey, but one thing again, because I think, I mean, all joking aside, man. I mean, I appreciate, I mean, that, and hopefully people like me, we're going to get to that. I mean, maybe a while, once we study up. But people are going to have the biggest problem, traditional thinkers, conventional thinkers like myself in this regard. Like, you've been talking about all the great, you said some pros and some cons and all this good stuff. But what people really got to understand about is stuff like how taxes. I'm going to say it. Like, I would say it like, you're talking about this money, you're talking about that, and everybody knows the quickest way to get Uncle Sam to knock on your door is if he don't get his cut.
All right. We're going to dive. I love this part. This is my least favorite topic to talk about, but it's got to be done. So just a quick little story. When I first got into crypto, I didn't know shit about taxes. I didn't know what capital gains was. Like, I slept through those classes in college. I hated finance. Yeah, my buddy and I, once we started that business and we decided like we're gonna do things by the book, we got a team of CPAs that literally goes through everything with us and like audits and make sure like we're bulletproof against Uncle Sam. Like, I don't want to have him come knocking on my door. But the key takeaway is like, just like traditional assets, there is short-term and long-term gains that can be applied to it. I am not a financial advisor. I do recommend that everybody looks at the SEC's website. They will tell you, and the IRS website, how to do your crypto taxes. One key thing to note is if you're doing like high volume, which I believe is over $20,000 worth of purchases, on traditional exchanges, Coinbase, Gemini, Kraken, you will get a form from them in the mail, and it will tell you how much you owe in taxes. And yeah, you better be ready to pay the tax when the time comes. I mean, the gains are nice, but man, sometimes those taxes can be it's a hassle. And I mean, I say this lightly. I think that things like as we develop rulings around these things and we start to see these become more and more mainstream, fingers crossed, all things aside, good Lord willing, the creek don't rise. I think we're gonna see a different attitude. We're like, for example, we've seen Kentucky just in the past month offer incentives to people to move there and start up mining companies. We're going to see more and more places do that. We're going to see places, interstate commerce is going to be somewhat dependent on, like getting rid of these fees. Because, like, let's say I buy crypto today, it rises, 50%, and I send it to Malic to, a few days down the road. I'm not going to want to eat that in terms of like tax, like I'm losing in short-term taxes. So I think that we're going to see a lot of like regulatory changes. As of right now, when you're playing in the space, you can't hide anything. That's the beauty of crypto. It's all in the open. All the ledgers are in the public open. So it just behooves you, even if you made a couple $1,000s in gains, to report those gains and just bite the bullet, because those $1,000 in gains will be worth a lot more come down the road than they will be if they're seized by any like regulatory committee or anything like that. But I mean, going into like the history of crypto, like we've seen bans by countries, we've seen India, we've seen China try and implement banning, and like sure enough, those countries have all changed their attitude. Slowly but surely, these bans have been lifted, and I think the EU is working on. They haven't really finalized or formalized like a plan. But cryptocurrencies are doing they're going to be a main focal point in the EU. So there's a lot up in the air, and I'm watching that carefully. But I think it's no longer something that's just like a joke or like for dark web terrorists to use or like drug dealers or people. It's people are using this. It's for serious purposes. And with that, they're going to have to look at it under a different light and like either change statutes to enable usage, or things could stay the same. But I think it's going to change. And I know a lot of people hear the word ban. Like, why would I want to invest in something that could potentially get banned as a currency? It's not banned per se. Those people can't buy it in the country. So like the traditional users, 95 to 99% of the people probably watching this, you're going to go on, you're going to link a credit card in or a debit card, type in how much you want to purchase one Ethereum, $1,700, hit enter, boom. Money pulls out of your bank. These countries that banned it, they shut down service of those websites. They made it so like your banks weren't able to send money to any known sites that were processing it. They just made it excessively hard to do it. But it doesn't mean that those networks still didn't exist in those regions. I mean, if you lived in India, you lived in China during 2017, 2018, you could send cryptocurrency. You just take this sucker over here, plug it in, boom, send it to send the money to whoever you want to. The governments don't have the ability to shut down these networks, and I think that's something that they're slowly but surely like realizing is they're going to have to play ball with these. Like it's not something that's going away.
Right.
Yeah. So okay. Well, you're talking about the taxes part. So you make $20,000 in taxes. I mean, you make $20,000 in gains over a course of a year. Pay those taxes. I assume this money has to be paid in USD. And how readily available is basically taking that cash out of, say, your investment?
Sure thing. So, interestingly enough, the IRS has actually started accepting cryptocurrency payments.
Really?
So, just like if I think one of the best government agencies out there, if they can hop on board with it, I think that's a sign. But in terms of like calculating and everything like that, it's interesting because my buddy called me up and he's like, dude, I'm doing my taxes for 2021 and there's a question about cryptocurrencies. Like, I guess, what is it? TurboTax now has like a question, like right when you start, like how much did you buy any crypto? Are you in possession of any crypto digital funds or, NFTs or anything like that? And asks you that. And like, it's a whole, like that wasn't in there last year. But what was the rest of the question regarding taxes?
So how readily available? So if is there any time that you can't pull that money out or cash your cryptocurrency gains into USD? So
sure thing.
If the person, say somebody bought in at the dip, right? They bought in at the dip back then. They bought a few $100s of Bitcoin, and they're just a 9-to-5 worker. They don't have a lot of money. They just had some disposable income, decided to invest, get in, and all of a sudden it hit 20 grand. And now they're responsible. They bought a few, let's say they bought 3, and then it went from 4,000 to 20 grand. They're in the money now, but they don't have that readily available in liquid cash.
That's a big. So this is a fairly big misconception. The beauty of it is it's actually quicker. I've tested this a few times, so I'll describe how to do to cash out, and then I'll describe like how quick it is. So with Coinbase, Gemini, Kraken, those websites where 95 to 99% of you guys are going to be buying cryptocurrencies, those websites offer out USD cash outs. Like you can literally hit a button, be like convert, every day that you can log into the site. I've never heard of them disabling the cash transfers. And then additionally to that, let's say hypothetically, worst case scenario, these sites all go down. You got these machines that are on the network, the ATMs, there's actual physical places that you can go to, connect your wallet. It's going to be a fee. You're going to eat maybe a 7% fee. But if you want to get that money quick, that's better than, let's say, you wanted to touch your Roth or your 401k, sorry, you're going to be paying a massive, huge penalty on that. But I'm not going to say worst case scenario is going to happen. So let's just stick with using Coinbase and Gemini as an off-ramp, to get your crypto from crypto to cash in your pocket. It's basically the reverse of how you got it there. It remits via ACH transfer, and it goes into your bank account within, an hour. I've tested it probably once a year just to, see if there's any changes. And when I did, going on Gemini and cashing out, took maybe I think 30 minutes to do, to cash out on some Ethereum that I had sitting in there. So, it's very quick, and Coinbase back in the day when I used to use it as a service, it took maybe an hour. It's faster than any sort of transferring of funds via traditional methods. That's for sure.
So I'm going to assume it'd probably be a bad idea to pay you said the IRS is accepting crypto now?
Yeah. Yeah, I know where you're going with that.
You won't catch me paying the IRS in
right.
crypto. They're getting USD.
Put that out there. I just want to put that out there because it might be a little more convenient and you'll avoid that 7% fee, But
That's funny. That's funny. It's like, hey, IRS is accepting crypto. I bet you are. I bet you are accepting crypto. Yeah.
I just picture like a few pencil pushers like sitting behind like a desk somewhere, being like watching like the market go up, like freaking out as like all these like people who are very short-sighted paid those gains taxes. And like they're probably like, wow, are like a couple $1,000 that these geniuses like donated to the IRS, and now where it's like, whatever. So
tell me this, Michael, is there a way to avoid the 7% fee or to lower it, or are there further penalties that you can incur?
So that's basically if you like went to an ATM, like if you went to like a Bitcoin ATM and like cashed out. When you go to Gemini, for example, I don't know the fees off the top of my hands, but rest assured it's a lot lower than 7%. I think it's even lower than 1%. I can pull it up, but that's online? Yes. So and that money, you could do this at midnight. Let's say like you need that money to go to cookout. You can go you can spend that couple $1,000s at cookout. That munchies have hit. Seriously, that money's in your account. Like you're not having to wait for the bank to open to clear that money. Like it's an ACH transfer. It's just like if you were to use like say Zelle, Venmo, PayPal, any of those things. Like that money, like you hit like instant transfers there. It's relatively the same thing with crypto when you cash it out from.
And there's no time restrictions there either.
No, markets are open 24/7, 365. We never shut down. It's always open, like your favorite 7-Eleven. We're more than willing to take more. If there were more hours in the day, I'd say it's open longer. But unfortunately, we're restricted to 24. So
what's the benefit in paying the 7%? Like why go?
Oh, that was literally like if Coinbase, like let's say there's like a DDoS attack, the Fed shut it down or something like that.
Okay.
Or then like your better case scenario is find somebody like me who's gonna buy it off you in cash, and
sure.
And like I'll as a business expense buy it, and it goes into my company, and you have cash, I have what I want, and to do that, it's just as simple as writing down making basically a buy-sell receipt and having the person sign it, and I know some people who will sell for a loss, a percent under spot price or whatever. Like let's say it's going for $1,700, they'll sell it for $1,650 or whatever, just to get that cash in their hands. But still, even if you look at that, that's less than that's way below what a Bitcoin ATM. That's like absolute worst case scenario. Bitcoin ATM. Don't use Bitcoin ATM. Find you somebody who has cash that will buy it out from you if you can't use your traditional method, such as Coinbase or Gemini, to liquidate, which has never had any they sometimes will lock accounts that aren't verified, and if you don't cross your T's, dot your I's, but I've never had an issue cashing out. Not saying that I cash out all the time, but when I test out these features, it's very quick.
Sure. Awesome. And those fees don't change depending on the cryptocurrency, right? They're just what they are.
Hold on. I'm actually I'm looking into the Gemini's. I'm on their website right now. So I'm looking. It varies between each one. It looks like some of these they take hold on, I'm trying to find Ethereum. So they take 0.001 Ethereum, which is it's roughly $1.75 for X amount. It depends on what your threshold is, how much you're drawing out, but it tells you beforehand, before you hit confirm and everything like that, how much is going to them and how much you're gonna pay in terms of cryptocurrencies, because these companies aren't stupid. They don't want to pay. They don't want your USD that if you cash out 1 Ethereum. They want part of your Ethereum that you're getting rid of, so they can keep on holding it. So yeah.
Okay. So and that may be a good segue for us to talk about just how many different cryptocurrencies there are, so people understand. And you mentioned this earlier, to stay away from those, stay away from specific ones. Try to stay with the top 5 cryptocurrencies. So explain how many there are, and why there are so many for the most part.
So yeah, basically the beauty of cryptocurrency is it's open source. Anybody can do anything, create their own coin, create their own offshoots. So let's say, you wanted to make a Malic coin. It has intrinsic value based on Malic. We've seen things like this happen. We've seen athletes. We've seen Lil Yachty. He just came out with a coin where he sold percentages of him or something to that degree. I don't know the full details. But, we've seen Spencer Dinwiddie, or no, it's not Dinwiddie. Sorry, there's somebody out there in professional sports land that's getting, that tokenize themselves, basically, and you earn, future contracts that they establish with other teams. So, like, you pay, like, $20,000 to have, part of LeBron coin, and LeBron gets traded for, and his salary increases, call it another 50 million, or I don't even know, like, pick a crazy number. So, like, you gain a percentage of, like, however much his salary increases or something like that. And we slowly but surely started to see, like, people do that. And like we were saying earlier, with music and art and all that, like, it's endless possibilities. So it's really whatever people find valuable. There's potential for a token to be made, There could literally be a token made for washing clothes. Like, you go to the laundromat and call it, like, wash coin. But these coins, they got to be supported by miners. They have a network, and if people aren't using them, if there's basically deemed no value in them, they'll fade to black and they'll go away, and they'll become extinct essentially. So that's the beauty of it. Right now, like I said, there's 8,500 or so different coins. Not all those coins are like grade A. Like, some of those are complete trash. It's just people created those coins, so they're taken into consideration in terms of, like, the total sum of cryptocurrencies out there. And that's ultimately, in terms of, like, what do I recommend? Like, I would say, if you pick something with, like, $1 billion market cap, or, like, over in the top 30 cryptos, top 50 cryptos even, I would say just do your research and what makes sense to you. Like, people thought Tesla it would never be what it is, or SpaceX, or it would never be what it is. But Tesla's stock like crazy. It literally, it's like the gold rush. People are just rushing in, throwing money at things, and hoping it sticks. And, like, not gonna lie, I definitely did that back in the early days, and now I'm definitely way more calculated with the risk that I take. And I would just say, like, if something sounds too good, it probably is too good to be true. But was there?
So maybe break down the top 5 or so cryptocurrencies that people may or may not have heard of, but should, if they're looking at getting into cryptocurrency and investing in that pattern, where you're likely to.
Sure thing. So first and foremost, whenever I have friends that get into the cryptocurrency realm and they don't know exactly what to do, I always kind of just recommending treating it like a portfolio. Like, you have some, like, just super stable stocks, you have some, like, medium risk, and then you have, like, the super volatile ones that are, potentially going to make you retirement money. And, like, those make up maybe like 2%, 5% of your portfolio, call them the YOLO picks. But I would recommend going for the bread and butter. As much as I hate to say it, is Bitcoin. Like, it will be around for a long time. It's number one. That would be, like, my recommendation as, like, a solid bet, because it has every coin can convert from Bitcoin into another coin. Like, you can swap it on any exchange that coin is listed on as a pairing with Bitcoin. No problem.
Why is that, Michael? Why is Bitcoin?
Bitcoin's number one. It was the first, it was the first cryptocurrency. Everything was kind of like built around that. It might be the fact that it has a $700 billion market cap, rapidly approaching $1 trillion market cap, and it's a finite resource. And like I tell people, imagine if like diamonds were, there was only like 21 million diamonds, or a million diamonds. How much would you value that at? So like I like Bitcoin because it's basically like cryptocurrency gold. It's good for a store of value, and it's hopefully going to go up in price. And then with my personal number one is Ethereum. Basically, as discussed earlier, it has a huge ecosystem built around it, and it essentially dubs itself as like the world's computer. Like I personally believe that the next level of internet will be built upon Ethereum. It'll be like interacting, all the wallets will be doing the things that we discussed, previously in the show. And then like the interesting thing about Ethereum is it also provides financial freedom. So I know that's like kind of like an ambiguous term, but so backing up, currently with mining, you have algorithms that support proof of work or proof of stake. And with proof of work, that is the miners, the people that are plugging into the network, validating the transactions. They have these big machines, this big roughly, and they just have hundreds of chips, and they create a ton of heat. And unfortunately, that's like super bad for the environment. And Ethereum switched over to proof of stake. And now what that does is you lock up your funds. So in incremental values of 32, you can run a validator, and a validator is basically a node on the network that processes transactions, and you earn 10%. And right now, at current market rates, it may sound a little wild, but it's basically, it comes out to be about $55,000 per validator to run. But you're earning 10%. You're also hedging your bets on the fact that Ethereum is going to increase to, say, call it $5,000. So you're making 3.2 Ethereum a year, and then Ethereum spikes to, call it $5,000, $10,000. You're making 15, 30 grand a year just off of this like $55,000 investment. That's if you bought at current market rates. Like I'm not going out. I don't want anybody to think that I'm going out and spending 55 grand buying up all these validators. Like my buys are done well before we even get to the to above hundreds. So that's just like one interesting thing is, so like in order to like shift the need for the need for power and all that, this huge massive electrical consumption that we see like Bitcoin and all these other coins doing, it's now just people who can be like plugged into their computer while it's running. These validators are running, and even if you don't have 32, you can still stake like an incremental fraction of it with more people. So like it has to be 32 to make a validator, but there are options out there called staking pools that will enable people to team up and basically earn anywhere from, I think it's like 3% to 10%, depending on how many people start doing it and how quickly it takes off. But right about now, as we're talking, it's about 11%. In terms of like interest earned, and that's just pure Ethereum, not like USD or anything like that. And then I really wasn't prepared for this, to be honest with you. I like another choice that I recommend now, backing away from like the expensive coins, would probably be Uniswap, which for those of you that are just now tuning in, Robinhood was able to restrict control and flow of the market because, Citadel Capital called them up and was like, stop this nonsense. And, sure enough, they shut off the market. Uniswap is basically, it's a swapping exchange that is, it does not have any central form of control. It's all decentralized. So like you can go in, you can swap Ethereum for Bitcoin, you can whatever you need to swap for. You can swap out these coins, And more people are starting to use this platform. And by holding the coins of Uniswap, you basically, I believe, you incur lower amounts of fees when you're doing these transactions. So that's one interesting thing. It's just how people are able to where there's a will, there's a way. In finance today, there's people that essentially held. It's controlled. Not in crypto. It's ones and zeros. Like I said earlier, it's not up to the people. It's up to the code. And if it decides, it goes this way, it's going that way. So Uniswap, and then I'll just touch on one more. I would probably say, let's see. A lot of people may not like this choice, but I would say Neo, it's dubbed Chinese Ethereum, and there's only 84 million of them on the market. That will be in possible current circulation. If you do the math, in China, there's over 2 billion people there, and it breaks down to, I believe, like 0.05 a coin per person just in China alone. So you got to take into the total world population. It's not just going to be like strictly for China. China is also leading the way for digital dollars. So it's kind of like a long-term bet. And I mean, right now it's trading at like $25, $30. There's been a lot of suppression and a lot of manipulation, in my opinion. But it was trading at like all-time high prices, like over $200. So I mean, these things have GitHubs. They all have, you can see what developers are doing, what's being resolved. It's not just like a pie in the sky, like magical numbers are being generated and like these coins are assumed to have value. There's more and more companies are coming on board with Ethereum. There's the Ethereum Alliance, which is all these massive companies that are kind of like, Ethereum is the way we're going to go in terms of establishing a blockchain. And then there can be private blockchains off of Ethereum, side chains for them. But not to deviate on the conversation, there's just a lot going on in different spaces. And I don't think that, just having seen from a political, socio-economical standpoint, China's not going to play the same ball as the United States. So I'm also hedging my bets on something that China's going to be big in China. Well, the price will eventually come is my thought process on it.
You're talking about Neo, they are also building EVs. It's the EV-centric NIO.
So it's completely different. It's completely different than the two. Yes, I'm glad you brought that up. I've had a few people ask me about that, but they are two completely different things.
Okay. So ultimately, you probably need to pay attention to what's going on in the market all the time as things change on a whim. It's technology. So if you're not in the technology space, it's just about I equate technology, and me and Michael have had this conversation before. I equate technology with being a doctor, right? Because a doctor, they have to continue education all the time. Technology moves a bit more rapidly, especially in this age right now, and trying to stay in front of new coding languages and new ways to do things and protection, security. It's just, you got so many things working against you, so you have to. So it's not for the faint of heart, to say the least. You have to put effort in if you do decide to invest in crypto, because ultimately it's a technology. It's a everyday learning thing. So.
You mean me just watching Netflix in technology? That's that technology? So?
Yeah, it's definitely not one of those sit on your couch and get rich things, man.
Oh, okay. Oh, dang. Oh, so you're talking about his prime now? Oh, okay. Oh, okay, cool. You talking about his
yeah.
All right, cool. I can do that.
Yeah. And that actually makes a pretty good segue, right? So when we're talking about everything that's going on in the market, how the market changes so much, crypto and all these new things are happening, especially right now, right? Because now we just had this mad push for Bitcoin and Ethereum and some of the bigger coins alike. They're starting to see now, they're making mainstream news. So now, legal and foreshadowing. What happens? So, is there anything on the forefront that either suggest a rise in crypto or a fall in crypto or regulations? Other countries dig into that a little bit.
So going back into like kind of regulations, I briefly touched on it earlier. Ripple as a currency is being investigated by the SEC, whether or not it's like deemed a security. So I believe we're going to see a lot of like establishment based on like when the case comes out, you know, it will set a precedent for a lot of digital currencies, a lot of cryptocurrencies out there. You know, is this security or is this, you know, a digital currency, which will affect how it's taxed, how interstate commerce is comprised on it, and all that. But in terms of like the United States legal, I mean, I think we're just, like I said, it's just one step at a time. I think that there's a lot of things that are on our plate that we need to deal with before we get to cryptocurrency. I mean, like we literally just transitioned presidents. We have a pandemic that's going on. A lot of people have lost their jobs because of the pandemic. We have national debt that's slowly but surely racking up. So I think, I mean, honestly, it's just going to be until it's a mainstream, and by mainstream, I mean like you see like billboards, you see like more like to the point where it's like a common thing. You're not going to have people watching this podcast. It's going to be like synonymous with like the internet or like telephone or something like that. People be like, oh yeah, Bitcoin, yeah, that. Like when we get to that and like it's being taken more serious, then I mean they're going to have to do something. But as of right now, the only pending outcome is that SEC trial, and I mean it could have a huge impact, but it just based off of what I've read and what I've seen out there in terms of news, it's like having your grandpa, you know, like trying to explain to him TikTok. It's not gonna go over. It's gonna be over his head, and I mean they need to get more people who are you know, more and more friendly with like digital dollars and technology into the Fed and into the SEC. Personally, but there's really not a whole lot going on in terms of like regulation, and I have a feeling though something will be coming down the pipe. Like there's been way too much money made in the past year, you know, since Ethereum literally in 2020 went from $90 all the way up to $1,500. Like they're gonna have to do something, just like they're gonna have to do something about the GameStop people and all that. And it's like one day, you know, at a time. But I'm confident it's the future, and you know, I have a lot at stake, and like I can give you a million reasons why I you know, but at the end of the day, I mean, it's just my gut feeling is like they're gonna have to adapt to it and evolve to it, just like they had to adapt and evolve to adding commercial, like interstate commercial laws with like the internet and stuff like that. So I mean, like I mean, it took them some time, but yeah, it will come, I think.
Sure. So I think like we've touched on quite a bit so far, and I would say maybe 90% like pro cryptocurrency, 10% you know con. So I want to expound a little bit on the 10% con a little bit, right? With sort of examples, right? So I have, like Michael, we know we've been talking about cryptocurrency together since we met, and you know, since 2017. And it's like you've been telling me get in, and I've also had pushback from some savvy investors, friends of mine that question the value of cryptocurrency, right? So the pushback is, all right, so it's not that there's no value; it's just it's kind of a valueless, right? The dollar was backed by gold, right? So that's how we got to the you know, the dollar. Not so much anymore, but so where does the value come when we're talking about cryptocurrency?
Sure thing. So basically, the value is the network, the miners, the people that support it. One thing that people don't realize is it costs money to be a miner. Electricity is not free. So as electrical prices rise, like I remember when John McAfee was being interviewed a while ago, when he was a crypto guy, his crypto firm was, producing a Bitcoin for $1,000, and then just like at market rate, it was $10,000. So, the price of a Bitcoin in theory wouldn't drop below the price of electricity. And as a miner, I'm not going to, if I spend, call it, I don't know what the price of a Bitcoin mine up today is because I focus on Ethereum, but like call it like, let's say $30,000. I have a really efficient setup and I can get like, the margins down. Fuck, where's I going with that?
So we're talking
about... So sorry, I lost my thoughts. So I'm not going to sell for less than $30,000 or whatever it costs me to mine up these coins. So basically, it's the value perceived by the miners. And then additionally, you have more and more people coming on these networks, supporting them with the nodes, so allowing for faster. Allowing for faster transactions on the network, basically like adding to the network's overall value. And I mean, like the thing is, like, what do you put on like I tell everybody, like, imagine diamonds. There's only 1 million diamonds or 24 million diamonds. Like, what would you value 1 carat at? And that's like essentially the same principle as Bitcoin. Like, yeah, sure, diamond might be like it might not make sense to you, like, as a store of value, but a store of value is a store of value if it's recognized or accepted from a group of people. And I mean, people have decided that Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are a great store of value, and the market basically dictates what the price is going to be. Like if it costs $5 for send a transaction, that's going to incrementally drive the price up. And as we see more and more fees or like regulations, like let's say like as like a legal miner, you got to pay like a $5 excise tax or something like that. That will be reflective eventually. Like the miners are going to rise the fees on the network, which rises the price of the coin. And I mean, it's basically trickle down economics.
All right, Michael. I mean, cool. I mean, I ain't gonna lie to you. Some of that's speaking French to the Chinese here. I get it. French to Chinese. We just anyway. Again, being the most conventional thinker here. Okay, meat and potatoes. How do I start investing? That's what I want to know.
All right. Luckily, to start investing, it's quite simple. So simple, my parents could do it, and in fact, they've done it. So I'll just give a quick overview. So between these exchanges, you can go with Gemini, you can go with Coinbase, you can go with Kraken. Those are basically the 3 big on-ramps to crypto, I call them, where you can take a credit card, debit card, put it on your account, say, I want to purchase, 0.5 of an Ethereum, or I want to purchase a whole Bitcoin, and then boom, like you're charged for it, money comes out of your account, and then you have the cryptocurrency on your Gemini, Coinbase, or Kraken account. And then from there, it's yours to do whatever you want with. In all actuality, whether you want to keep it on that site or transfer it to a cold storage, like we previously covered off earlier.
So tell me this. You said you made some numbers. You said like 0.5 or 0.1. So is that number fluid, or are there set amounts?
Oh no, it could be whatever number. If you wanted to buy like 420 Ethereum, 0.69 Ethereum, you could do whatever your little heart desires. I was just saying that because I know most people who are watching this aren't gonna like want to throw around $2,000-$3,000 on like something some crazy guys talking about on podcasts.
Right.
But.
So that makes sense, because some people might just have maybe they've got $100 a paycheck of disposable income, and then like I want to do investment. So would that work? Could they just go in and say, hey, I'm gonna just put $100 on Ethereum rather than say
100%, 100%. And I mean, honestly, that's how a lot of people get started. You know, they put in a couple $100, and then off that couple $100, they'll see the market start to move, and you know, next thing you know, they're buying a whole Ethereum. And I mean, you can buy whatever amount you want. Like I think even down to like $5 worth on these sites. So it's pretty.
So are there any pitfalls or scams that you know?
So I mean, a pretty common scam that, like, I mean, the one that everybody should know about, or just, you know, Twitter, Facebook, like you'll get like an impersonating account of like a famous person, and it will say like, send me like 1 Bitcoin, and like I'll duplicate it to make 2 Bitcoin, and I'll send it to you, you know, and like it's not just Bitcoin, it's like Ethereum, like any, like, you know, send me your money that can't be reversed on this network is basically the name of the game, and people do it. I mean, like people think like, oh, it's actually Elon Musk. Like, no, if you look, like that's actually not an O, that's a 0 in his name. Or like, you know, it's just, don't fall for anything. If it sounds too good to be true, it is. But in terms of like the websites that I mentioned, Coinbase, Kraken, and Gemini, they're all bad. I believe that they're FDIC insured to some degree. Or they're insured to a degree. I'm not going to for sure say which one they are, but it's not a scam. Like your money's pretty much locked up in there. But like I've said in the past, you should go out and buy a wallet, a cold storage wallet from Ledger, or one of the other many dealers that make them, and use that to store your funds.
Sure. You got any questions there, Brian?
Well, I mean, yeah, that's pretty simple. I mean, that's pretty simple. But I mean, would you treat it like your traditional stocks? I mean, cashing out. When do you cash out? Is it just like whenever, or like?
Yeah, no, you set a sell order, and you know, when your sell orders liquidate, you have cash in your account. You know, it's basically the same thing as like if you cashed out on your E-Trade account, essentially.
Okay. Yeah, I imagine because some of those things, those affect the market too, because it is treated like stocks, right? So when you got people that come in for the short, right? So it's like when Bitcoin hit 20,000, you may have had a bunch of billionaires jump in and say, all right, I'm gonna jump on this train, start buying, which drives the price up, which ultimately took the Bitcoin to 40K. There could be a dump coming, because you imagine a lot of these people probably went around for the short ride. So those are things you got to consider, especially if it's not a long-term thing. I would look at anybody going into cryptocurrency to probably look at it as a very long-term investment. It's not a pump and dump, right? Let's not invest a bunch of money just to get some out when you make, when it hits what you assume it's going to hit,
Yeah, I'm in this for the long haul. Like, I mean, I've seen it go from 1,500 all the way down to 90. I've seen it go from 20K down to 900, or to 3,000. Sorry. I mean, it's super volatile, and I mean, I could be wrong, but I like to think that I'm right a lot of the times. I mean, my girlfriend would probably say the same thing too. But at the end of the day, it's an investment, and like, you gotta read up on it, learn. Like, I have Google alerts, for example, or like I have like a whole Reddit RSS feed like dedicated to just like cryptocurrency news. It's like how I stay up to date with it, and as it becomes more and more of like a hot trending topic, I don't think it's gonna go away anytime soon. Like, we're gonna see more and more people, more and more celebrities started using it, started endorsing it. It's an interesting ride.
Yeah. And to that point again, I'd like to reiterate that about 99.8% of everything Michael has suggested would happen has happened. So I've just been, and you know, I kick myself all the time for not immediately buying in initially, but you know, I'm old school. I'm practicing what I preach, right? So I'm doing the research, you know, for basically 4 years worth of it.
Analysis
you know,
paralysis.
before I jumped in. Yeah. I could have got lucky. I didn't, you know, but I'll know my stuff when I'm in there.
Yeah, I actually, it's funny. There's a guy at work I work with, and we after we got out of surgery or whatnot, we we're in the locker room changing whatever, and we had started the convo actually inside the OR, and we were talking about it, and he was like Bitcoin, and this was probably 2017, and I was about to I was all set. I mean, I was all set. We talked even more over the next few days, and I was like, okay, $15,000. I got $15,000 right here, and I did not do it.
Did not do it, yeah.
And it's 2021.
Yeah.
Hey, we all live and learn. We live and learn. Hindsight is a real what's that word that I'm looking for. But I mean, to that point, I bought Ripple when it was like a tenth of a penny. I bought several million of them, for I think it was like $1,000 or so. I sold it when it went up to 5 cents. I was thinking I was hot shit. Ripple went up to $1.50.
Oh wow.
So we wouldn't be having this call. Sorry, Brian. You'd be talking to my secretary or something. We set up a meeting. I'd be chilling on some private island. But I mean, did that discourage me a bit? Yes. It sucked. Yes. Do I think about it quite often? Not really. I try not to. Suppress memories. But I mean, it's I've had numerous friends be like, "Damn it, I should have bought in at $1,000, but I thought it was going to drop." And I was like, "Me too." I think. I thought it was going to drop, and I'm waiting to throw money into the market. But I mean, it's never too late. It's basically what I'm getting to get at. Because I mean, even if you never know what it could be at.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it was just to pull salt in the guy's wound, and he wasn't doing 15,000. He wasn't doing he had put stuff in, but it wasn't 15,000. You know what I mean? It was,
sure.
It was maybe 5 to 7. His portfolio on Bitcoin alone is 90. What he was doing, he was buying a little bit. His is 90 something. So he was only putting increments in there.
Sure.
So his is 90 something, and he has. No, I take that back. He's over 100. He's over 100,000 or whatever. Just doing the incremental stuff. He's doing a few $100 here and kind of just fractional, like you were saying, or whatever. And I just shuddered to think if I had just dropped that 15K at that time, what I'd be doing right now. You know what I'm saying? So
right, you'll really be shuddering when I tell you this. So when I initially got into it, I took money from my 401k. My parents were dude, what the hell are you doing draining your 401k? You are an idiot. Do not do this. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. I was like, no, I've been right about all the stock picks that I called for my dad. I was buy Google, as a small child, buy Apple, granted I didn't have money. I was like, no, this is my shot to do it. I only put in, I think, $5,000, initially, in the rest is kind of history. And I mean, just GameStop, that's what I'm just kind of baffled and confused by it, because people that are willing to put in, life savings worth of amount of money into GameStop stocks as it's rising actively on a short squeeze, but they're afraid to put it into cryptocurrency. I would beg those people to take a tenth of what you would consider throwing at a short squeeze option like that and throw it at crypto and sit on it for a year and let me know which one performs better. And I guarantee it will probably be crypto.
I don't even think about it. I don't think about it. And every blue moon, he'll jokingly remind me. He's like, yeah, just like the time we both invested in Bitcoin. Oh, that's right, you didn't. And I'm just sitting there like, yeah. All right, so let's transition. Okay, Michael, tell us about best practices, man. Like, yeah.
Sure enough. So, like I've been saying throughout this podcast, hopefully it's stuck with at least one person. Buy a cold storage hardware wallet. Ledger, Tezos, there's a bunch of other companies out there. Those are just two to name them. That's going to be key to like maintaining once it's in your wallet, it's yours. Unless somebody gets your 24-word seed key, which I recommend writing that down when you're setting up your wallet. Or, I'm a little bit worried about fire, so I had mine etched in on a piece of metal. So it's like fireproof. But don't take pictures of your key, like just go while we're on the topic of like key management, like the thing that ultimately like controls is like if this gets blown up, you need the key to restore it. So when seed and key are synonymous to each other. Write it down, piece of paper, metal, one of the two, and then go put it in like a safe deposit box, gun storage safe, like something that's going to be able to withstand fire or somebody coming in and trying to break into your house while you're not there. Don't save it on a PC, don't save it on a phone. As we've seen with recent news, computers are still very susceptible to security hacks, and it'd be nothing for a hacker to get a list of email addresses associated with people who purchase these, and then just target those people trying to get their IP addresses or their locations that are associated with the transaction. Not saying that it's ever happened, but it wouldn't be. With security, anything's possible. So don't take a picture with your phone, because a lot of people don't realize that phones just suck with security. Like there's potential that you have like keyware, malware, or ransom, some sort of virus on your phone that you may not even know about. Like most people don't even have like virus detection software. So you never know what's lurking on your phone when you take that picture. But yeah, I'd say safe deposit box is the best place to store your backup to your wallet. And then
let me jump in right there, because I would also say probably write out your key, especially if your handwriting is crap.
Oh no. Whenever the beauty of setting these up is you have to, when you're on these devices, like everything's done on the screen as I'm turning it on. So it will tell you like on here, C1, it's the word dog, and then like C2 is car. They're complex words, and then it goes after it goes through and it's like, did you write all these down? Because all right, now you have to go through and you have to manually confirm each word. So it definitely. It's a fail-safe. Like even if you wrote it down wrong, it just in order to screw this up, you have to write down the word, a completely different word, because it has like a quick filter in terms of words on here.
Awesome.
And then going back on just to like best practices, number one thing that I urge people not to do is not to buy on emotion. It's going to be tempting. There's lots of coins that are super low, like in terms of price, pennies, less than pennies. Don't go crazy. And like if you see it go up, like X amount, start throwing life-changing amounts of money at it, like dabble your toes in this thing, slowly but surely get into it. I had a buddy who was going to sell a $90,000 sports car for some Bitcoin. He was going to sell it for, I think it was like 3 Bitcoin at the time when Bitcoin was like peaking off at like 25K. Could you imagine though if you had done that and then you're sitting on roughly like Bitcoin retraced down to $3,000, like you're on 9K for like you just sold a 90K car? Like do what makes sense to you. And like I ultimately tell people, if you can't afford to lose it, then you shouldn't probably be investing. You should probably use it to like better like your life like in a different way. Like investing's not for everybody. I mean, like as much fun as I've had in it, I encourage people to, you know, think before you leap and kind of like it's not for everybody. Just know that.
Yeah, it's definitely not for the faint of heart, man. Because yeah, I remember that when it went up to 20K, he was like, it'll be up in 20K by December. December, Bitcoin will hit 20K, and you told me this in September, and this was 2017, and it went to 20K. But follow up, by March on that dip, it dipped back down to like 3,000 something or so. So, you know, quick as it comes, it can go. So, but I mean, if you stayed in there, then you know, look at where you're at now. Because before that, what was it, Mike? What was it sitting at before? Like, so around September of 2017, what was Bitcoin at?
Hold on.
Because I didn't think 20K was possible because of how big of the jump it would have been.
I think so. Right around like September, I think it was like right around like $1,000, maybe like $900 or so.
That's crazy.
Right. And like people thought like I was wild, and I was just like, nope, it's gonna go. And I mean, like I truly believe, I believe in the technology. Like basically, like that's the long and short of it. That's like what lured me into it. And I mean, I try to be conservative with these things, you know. And I looked at like I spent hours like looking at the markets, analyzing, you know, trying to do like TNAs, like, you know, just there's nothing that really like you can be prepared for. Like when it comes to this, it's absolute insanity at this point.
Right. Well, maybe on a follow-up podcast when everybody's got enough time to digest this, we can talk about resources where, you know, kind of places to follow, you know, alerts to get, you know, things like that, where people can stay in the know and kind of get a feel for where the market's going. Because, you know, I imagine this is enough. This what we've talked about today is probably enough for people to get to listen to it a couple times, digest it all, and have a bunch of questions. So, you know, follow up with questions, and then resources. Next podcast, but. Yeah. Brian, you got any just general questions, man?
I'll be honest with you. I gotta go back and watch this because truth of the matter is, for everybody who does, like, Malic forces me to go back and watch these like the podcasts, but I'm not crazy about my voice or whatever. So I do it reluctantly. But this will be one of the few that I will actually go back and really just kind of listen to again, just to confirm what I you know thought I understood, and then actually write down questions to clarify with you guys what completely was over my head. So to answer your question is, like, I'm sure I have questions, I just don't have them now.
Yep.
But and I think that will be the case for a lot of people. So they should watch this a couple of times. Because I'm super interested in this, man. Like, I was interested in it before, but I'm really interested in it now. I just don't know exactly what I'm interested in, what else I'm interested in. You know what I mean? Because, but yeah, and this is,
yeah, this is an opportunity for a lot of people. It's like, you know, people always talk about if they could have got in, because I was around when Google blew up. When they went, I was around when Amazon blew up, and I just didn't know enough about the stock market or stocks or any of that stuff to pay attention to it. I come from a family that's not really, you know, we're not financial savants. You know, nobody in my family has been, at least any generation 10 years before mine wasn't any part of my family, you know, we just didn't dabble in the stock market. It's probably the case with a lot of black families.
I was gonna say, like, black people are the most conservative people in the U.S. I know it's not built that way, but black people are 100%. Black families are 100% conservative.
Yeah.
Particularly when it comes to finance. Like we are, and that's why this is another part of Michael that I'm glad you're on this with. I mean, because this is for everybody. It's not just for one community. But I'm not ashamed. I mince no words when I say I'm definitely targeting more minorities to kind of get in and learn about this stuff. So the more stuff you know, the more opportunities you grow. Yeah. So yeah, I agree with you now. Like, yeah, my family, there's very few people dabbling in stock market. Yeah.
Yeah, it's too risky. We don't know enough about it. And it's too risky. Like we've always worked hard for our money, so I tried to put it in the stock market so it can dip one day and it's all gone, right? So that's just the mentality we come from.
Yeah.
So this will be good, man. This will be an opportunity for people to learn something. And technology, and this is good on two levels, right? Because technology is here to stay. This is where everything is going. So you got to get your feet wet with technology. You got to get your feet wet with stocks. If you want to create some kind of sort of generational wealth for your kids to leave behind. So,
yeah. I've seen a lot of people just like they didn't have the money to put into the stock market, but they had money back when crypto was cheaper than it was today, and I helped a lot of people become financially free. They got out of debt, and some people even bought their own houses with just investing in it. And I mean, that's the long and short of it. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, Hispanic. There is no government. There's no authority figure behind this that can mute it, stop it, censor it. It's for everybody. Is basically the long and short of it. And I mean, the key is getting in before the lizard people, the rich and wealthy, get in there and start control the market. So I mean, ultimately my goal is to help educate as many people and try and get as many people, the common man, into the market as possible.
Yeah, we definitely appreciate you for that, man. So, hey, is there anything? I think this is a good place for us to go ahead and wrap it up. Michael, again, thank you for coming on here, and Mal, definitely thank you for setting this up. Because, I mean, I had no access to really anybody with this level of knowledge. So, Michael, thank you. Is there anything you want to plug? I mean, how can people follow you? I mean, if you want to
give Twitter for sure.
Shadows, I mean,
so I by no means am I good at Twitter. I actually just got on it last week for the first time in years and restarted a new account. If you type in chadwick.eth, you will find me. There's a large fire going on behind me.
I'm doing this right now. You said, what is it?
Chadwick, CHADWICK.ETH. And that's actually one of my wallet addresses. If you search it on the blockchain, if you search it on Etherscan, you can see what's in my wallet.
And do not let him fool you with the I'm not good at social media things.
Oh no, I get paid. That's my 9 to 5. That's what pays the tax bills and everything that I rack up from mining. But it's lacking right now. But I figured Twitter would probably be the best medium in terms of reaching out and talking to people about this. But if you have any questions, you made it this far, at chadwick.eth on Twitter, shoot me a question. Happy to answer it. I'm lonely on there.
And Brian, give out the Back Channels Podcast Twitter. So anybody with questions directly related to this podcast that want them answered on the follow-up.
You definitely can find, because it's so funny that you say that, but because I never actually it's so, hold on real quick. You can follow us at, as soon as I can get you the actual address, at Back Channels Podcast on Twitter. So we'll be doing more things like this to come, and it's this is just the tip of the iceberg. And again, that's at back channels, not black channels. I've heard that a couple of times. So this is an inclusionary podcast, not exclusion. It's not exclusion. I want people to be like, because somebody told me one time, hey, dude, like I wanted to do that, but I didn't know if it was cool if I followed you. I was like, why? What? Well, you said black channels. I was like, no.
Oh, wow.
This is power to all the people, not just a certain segment. So,
right.
Yeah, it's at Back Channels Podcast on Twitter, definitely. Mal, you want to say something before we head out?
Yeah. So I'm going to. I'm trying to get some time. We're gonna erect a Back Channels Podcast website. And we're going to get a little better with social media where we're sending out schedules. So when we tape these podcasts, we'll send out information letting you know we're taping it, what the topic is. And then we'll send out, if you do follow Back Channels Podcast, you'll get notifications when they launch on YouTube or any other platforms. So being able to follow Back Channels Podcast is the move. That'll keep you informed on everything we're doing. We're going to try to do a lot more of high-level informational stuff like this that could be beneficial financially, health-wise, everything. We're going to do more. I got to get more. I need to be a little bit more active. I'm taking on a lot of stuff right now, so my time's limited. But I think I've got some things. It's been trial and error for a while, and I think I've got my system worked out. So yeah, I'll be able to push a little harder, a little quicker on all these things. So it's a priority that we get the site up and we get the social media going. So yeah, that's things to come.
Yeah. Lastly, I would say, actually, there's two things I want to say. We're doing a series during the month of February. The Giants That Walk Among Us. It's just basically a series really just highlighting people who are making a big imprint on their community. These people aren't famous globally or anything even remotely close to that, but their worthiness clearly will come out and let you know that the worthiness for it to be highlighted will be obvious. And the second thing is, I told you wrong. It's not at Back Channels Podcast. It's at Channels Back. That's what it is. But Back Channels Podcast, but it's at Channels Back. So we're good. We're good there. So lastly, thank you guys for tuning in. Again, thanks Michael for being here and educating us. Mal for setting it up and also being the hardest working man behind the scenes. And I'm your boy B Mims. And once again, this is the podcast for the everyday man and woman. And we are out.